Hi, my name's Lauren Kay, and welcome to The Games That Made Me. We started this podcast to look at the lives and stories of those who are currently working in the gaming and esports industries to see the games that shaped our guests' futures. Today we're joined by Perri Karyal. Perri is a psychology streamer who beat Elden Ring with her mind. You can follow her on Twitter at Perri Karyal. This interview was so much fun to do because Perri is just so full of knowledge. I am so impressed by the fact that she could play Elden Ring with her mind. I can't play it with my hands barely, so this was really exciting to do. I really hope you enjoy it. Hi Perri, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's so amazing. I mean, you're not a stranger to GINX, obviously, having been on before to talk about your brilliant work. But today we're talking a bit differently. We're talking about the games that made you.
Amazing.
And one of your first introductions into games was playing Halo 3 with your brother. So
yeah.
When was this? Like, how old were you when this happened?
Old enough to not really remember. So maybe I'm thinking 6 or 7. And playing with my brother might be a little bit, giving a bit too much credit to him. I was next to him.
Yeah.
He played. And then sometimes I would play and he'd yell at me because I was doing it wrong. But I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
It was more of an identity thing. And it was just kind of the only thing we would do together. So I think that's really cool about games like Halo and couch co-op in general, which I think is dying a little bit from what I've seen of new games.
Yeah, it really is.
Such a friendship, community building thing. Really important.
I had brothers growing up too, where I would watch them play games, and it was just, it's one of those things where you feel like you want to take part, but you also feel like you just want to so what was the impetus for you to just be like, no, actually I want to play too? When did that sort of happen?
It happened way later when someone told me that I could. Because I kind of always, for some reason in the back of my mind, it was like, no, that's a them thing. And almost maybe through no fault of anyone's in particular, that's a boys thing.
Yeah.
I guess at that time, because it's quite a while ago, at that time it was advertised towards boys and men. And it wasn't really, I know now that they're making Xbox controllers that are nail polish colored, which I love. Some people say that it's pandering or something like that, but I think it's great. No, but when I started streaming, actually, it was the first time that I kind of picked up gaming again, which is really strange. And that was only 2 or 3 years ago. So I'm really, really new to it. And someone just said, hey, I mean, you know a lot about Halo. You seem to know all of the lore and you can kind of recite the game scene from scene, especially Halo 3. Why don't you play?
Yeah.
I was like, that's a good point. Let's give it a go. I was terrible.
Oh, that happens. Yeah.
It was fun. It was great. And then Infinite came out the year after. And so I thought, hey, okay, I can start fresh with a new game. And by that point, I'd already been gaming on stream for a little bit. And I'm not good at Halo Infinite, but I was streamable. People would watch me and not get angry. So that's all you need, I suppose.
Ultimately at the end of the day, it's like, there's no sort of skill requirement on you'd hope that there's no skill requirement on stream, as long as you bring people into the that enjoyment, that enjoyment of what you're doing.
Yeah, because the game is only part of the entertainment.
Exactly.
So they're more coming to watch you, especially as a variety streamer.
Yeah.
Or as a just chatting streamer like me. They're coming to, I guess, watch your face. And the words. I hope the words more than the face.
But I mean, what is it about Halo in particular that you really feel connected to?
I honestly think it might just be a familiarity thing, and also an Xbox thing. I feel like people choose a side between Xbox and PlayStation and then get really angry about it. And I'm totally one of those people. I mean, logically, I know that's ridiculous.
Oh, that's okay.
But still, I'm an Xbox person for no reason in particular at all. No, I think it's honestly just familiarity. And there's something called this is a bit nerdy now, but there's something called the mere exposure effect. And it was founded in 1968.
Sure.
And it's literally just, if you're familiar with something, you like it more. And it works for people too. So just placing yourself in a social group means that people will like you. It's genius.
Oh my gosh, this is really fascinating. Actually, it could totally blow the minds of people who are in that sort of like console war of like I'm on this team, I'm on this team. You shouldn't be on that team because like I will be like full disclosure, like I was raised with like PlayStation.
We must fight.
No, we mustn't, because it's like it is that thing. Like I feel that home connection to PlayStation because that's what I grew up with, which I guess is the same for you.
Absolutely. And it's completely, I mean, they're both fine. They're both consoles. It's completely illogical. No, so Halo 3, like that is kind of the same thing. I associate it so much with home, like you say, and my family. And I have a Master Chief helmet on stream that's just there for some reason. And I think actually playing Infinite and coming back around to it, it felt kind of full circle-y for my life, which seems weird to say at my age because I know that's probably not true.
No.
But it's kind of like I started with something, thought this would never ever be for me. I could never be the sort of person to be into this. And then all of a sudden, oh wait, this is my job now. It's really funny how those things happen.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's like all of these things kind of like align together, and then all of a sudden you're in the thick of it, and you just sort of think, how did I get like what's happened to my life?
Yeah, because you were saying that your journey has been a bit of a winding path as well.
Yeah. No, completely. And like, you know, with regards to this, like how has your relationship with like your brother been? Like does your brother still play games as well? Does your family quite game centric as well? Or
yeah, he does. And now it's got to the point where when I come home and we see each other, which sadly isn't as often as I would like, we can actually play the game together, and he doesn't yell at me because I'm actually not terrible anymore. So the relationship has definitely strengthened, and it's all thanks to Halo. Nothing else, just Halo.
Oh, that's sweet. But does he check in sometimes on your stream as well?
Never. No.
I love how that happens though.
It's true. I'm not sure why. Friends and family just they're like, oh, that's cool. I think they find it a bit surreal and a little weird.
Yeah.
Who is this person? Who are these people in chat?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit, I imagine it's a bit disarming.
Yeah.
Or alarming, actually, the opposite.
No, I felt so I once had my cousin join my stream, and I felt so exposed.
Yeah.
Like I felt really, really uncomfortable. Yeah. Even though I loved seeing him, I was just kind of like, why are you here?
Because I guess it's a whole other side to you that you wouldn't have shown him naturally otherwise. And now it's like, oh, okay. And you can't change.
No.
You have to be the same because that's the content. And the first time that my dad came into the stream, we're a very polite household. Yeah. We don't swear and things like that. But on stream, I'm effing and being all over the shop. And it's like, it's comedy. I have to. And I saw his username and I was just like, while I was saying these awful sexual things.
Love it.
Oh dear.
Hi, Dad. Hey, you know, at the end of the day, you got to respect the process, respect the fact that it's such a good living. And then also the fact that like you're doing really like a lot of good with the type of content that you're promoting as well.
Yeah. That's the goal.
It's like, it's okay, Dad. Just trust me.
Trust the process.
Trust the process. But yeah, and then, you know, on from that, going into The Sims. So whenabouts did you sort of get your sort of sim bug?
That was, again, it all comes down to my brother a little bit. He's wonderful. I don't know if he's coming off well.
Oh, he's coming off well. Wonderful.
Well, when you have, I'm sure you know this as well, when you have older siblings, you get the hand-me-downs.
Yeah.
So he left me his Wii because he had moved on to the Xbox. So finally I got a Wii for myself. And it was the first and only game that I ever bought for me. And so this was, I mean, it only came out in 2009, right? So it must have been way older at this point, but I don't remember when. So while he was off doing his shooters, I started playing this game that I guess stereotypically and annoyingly now was more meant for me, little girls, which is so annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and it was wonderful actually. It was such an escape. I think kids in general, they often feel really out of control because I guess adolescence, your brain is changing, everything is happening and you're forming relationships and you don't know who you are. So everything's really out of control. So that when you can get into a game, especially a game like The Sims, which is very on the nose about controlling everything.
Yeah.
It was such a lovely oasis. And I didn't realize then, but looking back, I kind of think because I have so many symptoms of ADHD a little bit, I found the rush of it and the time management and the creativity really, really soothing in a way that nothing else really was. And so that's the game that I played while everyone else was playing real games.
Oh, that's so cool though. Like I mean, I'm a Sims lover as well. And like me having like sort of ADHD as well is like one of those things where, yeah, like you're completely right. But although I will say that my Sims houses really do show my ADHD because it will be like there's like 3 rooms that are like kitted out and like decorated, and then there's ones that are not.
Oh my God, I thought that was just me.
Like,
oh, that's so reassuring.
Like it's like I'll go in, I'll be like, this is going to be the most stylized house ever,
and then you give up.
Like, I'm tired. This is boring. I can't. Like
a lot of the time, I just don't care.
I know. No. It's like, what happened to that child's bedroom? I don't know. It has a bed in it. He's happy. Like, let's leave him be.
Do you ever do that with characters as well?
Yeah.
You'll have one and she's going to be a famous artist and you sort of start it and then, no, I want to do a different one now over and over and over again.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And like, based off of that, with the fact that like you're looking at the way in which people play The Sims,
right? Like,
what has that sort of taught you about The Sims and how people play? Like, what are some of the things that you found essentially?
Right. Well, for myself, I found I want to say flakiness a lot. Like we were talking about, like hip hopping around different things and totally being completely unreliable, which I'm just owning at this point.
Yeah.
Forget it. I'm flippant. It's funny. I don't know.
Yep, it's a vibe.
For other people, because I keep coming across people who say they don't like it and they'll never play it, and then you sit them down and they get obsessed, and then the hours flick by. So it's kind of just in that itself, which isn't even a finding, but just in that surface thing, it kind of shows, I guess, people's impressions of their own identity and how that can be completely subverted and people can get into things they never thought they would potentially. There was a study, I can't remember when or who by, or even if this is real, so don't quote me on this, but I read somewhere there was a study where they basically put a lot of men in a group and they send them off individually to play The Sims 4. And they asked them to come back to the group and share with the class everything they did. But what they didn't know is that they were actually recording what they did.
Oh my gosh.
Researchers knew. So in the group, as you can imagine, they said things like, yeah, I was murdering all the Sims.
Oh my God.
Running around, setting fires.
Yeah.
Really, most of the time what they were doing was spending hours decorating a bathroom, making it all flowery and pretty. I know, it's sweet. So that sort of thing just shows a lot of bias. And also kind of, I think you already hit the nail on the head with this, the difference between people who like rigorous organization and people who prefer the creativity, people who can manage lots of Sims. I'm the sort of person that plays with one at a time, and I make them the Uber Sim.
Yeah. You will be my child.
Yes, you will be everything to me, and I will forget all the others.
Yeah.
I'll put a parent in the household and then neglect them.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like I can't take too many journeys on at one time.
No, not at all. But some people, they play exclusively like that. They'll do whole towns at once, which blows my mind.
Gosh,
I know, and
that's too much.
I don't know what that suggests psychologically, but definitely something. There's definitely personality traits that are popping out here, and I'd love to know more about it.
On that as well, you know, the fact that you've gone into psychology, the fact that you've gone to school for it, like, what was the sort of like, was it these sort of questions and these sort of answers that you kind of wanted to find for yourself? Is that kind of what led you to psychology?
Yeah, I think everyone who goes into psychology is a bit of a basket case.
Oh,
I think that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things. I was always fascinated by people who just didn't fit the norm and people who just always felt a little bit isolated for whatever reason. And now a lot of people don't like labels, but now that you can attribute things, even if it's just symptoms, not like full clinical diagnoses, but just if you can attribute a word, hey, this is what you're going through and this is what you can do to help yourself. It's wonderful. It's amazing. It's fantastic. And I think it's so important as well. It baffles me that it's not seen as a proper science by a lot of people, which is, I mean, science is just literally the process of how you find things out. So if it follows that process, it's a science, and that's pretty much all there is to it.
Yeah.
But I think literally everything is controlled by people. We are our own perceptions. We are ourselves. The world and our visual perception, our auditory perception is a complete lie, which a lot of games can actually pick up, like Superliminal and the Stanley Parable and things like that.
Yeah.
That we only know things from our own perception, and therefore everything is built around that, and therefore it's so important to know what's happening and to know what's going on and to know when you're wrong as well.
Exactly.
A lot of conditions, one of the main symptoms is you're not thinking completely right. Even if it's something like anxiety, you've got these distorted thoughts and you're not thinking, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you can figure that out, you can recognize it and be like, hey, that doesn't make sense. And then you feel better.
Yeah.
Even just that.
Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, just before I came here today, my husband had looked up that, there was a huge Reddit thread about people who had been banned from League of Legends like multiple times. And they didn't really click what the reason was. Like, why is it that I'm being banned? Like, even though... like in black and white sense, they were harassing somebody in the chat because they were angry. But it took them those 3 times of then finally like kind of recognizing like, oh, the problem is like it's how I'm not managing my anger. It's how I'm not managing my choices as far as how to express that anger in a game. And then also like my viewpoint of how I'm playing versus how somebody else is playing as well. Maybe like that's something with me. And it's like, it's really fascinating to see people like reflect on their experience. Like there's obviously some people who never will click and they'll just keep getting banned until they're gone, but like, I think that there's definitely like really interesting like sort of thing there about how people can reflect on themselves.
Yeah. And I think for people who are good at it, or for people who have tried over a long period of time to self-reflect, I think we take it for granted how easy it is. And we think, why this person, why don't you just think about it for 2 seconds? And then you'd realize, hey, that's not okay. But it is a really tricky thing. And I think you're supposed to learn it when you're a kid. There are loads of things you're supposed to learn when you're a kid. And if you just don't, if you miss it, then it's really hard to go back. There's a whole field of psychology that's dedicated to, they call it inner child psychology, which sounds really wishy-washy, but it's literally just dedicated to going back and kind of realizing the things that you missed so you can work on now. And self-reflecting, emotion regulation is a really important part of those things. But it's really interesting how I think culturally around gaming, some people's, even just their outlook on what's acceptable for that culture.
Yeah.
So like people, I remember there was a streamer, it was IShowSpeed, I think, who got in trouble for this. And then people got in trouble for pointing out that he should have been in trouble anyway, as is always the case with streamer drama. But there was a kind of screaming in Valorant, and it was all misogynistic sort of vibes. And I think he and people who do that sort of thing, they do think it's okay because, oh, it's a culture, it's a shooting game, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Maybe that was okay 10 years ago, but it's not anymore. And there was a streamer, or I think he's actually just a YouTuber, who not just as in lesser, but as in some people do both.
Yeah. No. This is just
I'm just checking.
Yeah, this is just the lane that they chose. That's okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
A YouTuber, iDubbbz, I don't know if you've heard about this. He did an apology recently about some of the content he was producing 7 years ago. And there was nothing really wrong with it necessarily, but he would use some slurs and think it was funny. But that is what the internet was like then. Yeah. But he's now done this amazing thing where he's reflected on all of that, and he's sat in front of a camera and been like, hey, this actually wasn't okay. I'm not going to make content like that anymore. And I'm doing this announcement to point out the fact that that wasn't okay, so that any effect I've had on normalizing this behavior can now start to be undone. Yeah. Which was amazing of someone to do. It's so brave, I think, as well. He did receive a bit of backlash for that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because like you kind of want to stay ahead of I guess in those situations you want to stay ahead of the curve in terms of like when people start to dig into your past and start to like really sort of identify places where you were growing. But like, yeah, it is really difficult. And but yeah, I think it's good to be able to look back and see where your behavior maybe has what could have been seen as like negative or was negative because of the situation in which you were in back then. Like, you know, we're all just like learning.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think as a society, as a culture, we're all learning and moving as well.
Yeah.
Which is why I say things in games or things on the internet was okay back then. I think we've just learned, just everyone through media or whatever have just learned the impact that things can actually have. And people are taking it a little bit more seriously, which is, it's good. It's I guess it's annoying if you like that content and now you have to think about things. Which is
I know.
But
it is a bit of a grieving process.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Like there are times where I'm just like, oh, I could really watch that or I could really listen to that, but no. I can't with the same lens anymore.
Yeah.
But on that though, I think it's really nice to lead on to the Stanley Parable, which obviously like psychological, like, you know, psychology wise, it's a really fun game. And like this was like the game that you kind of started streaming with, right?
I had been streaming regularly before then, but I think this was the game that established who I was as a streamer.
Sure.
I kind of consider my streaming career to have started when I played this game.
Yeah.
It was like it was an epiphany for me, I think, because I think when you start, and you must know this as a YouTuber, I think when you start your online presence, you're searching for a purpose.
Yeah.
Who am I? What do I do? Why would anyone watch me over someone else? And I liked talking. I could talk my parents' ears off. They were very pleased when I had a different outlet.
Oh, good. She's found YouTube people
Thank
to talk
God.
to now.
Yeah, and I like talking. I obviously like the psychology. I was studying it, and gaming is just part of Twitch that is fun, and it provides a really good background if you're talking over it. But I had no idea how to reconcile those things. I was kind of 3 different streamers and it was just not really working. And before that, because I was only into gaming for like 2 years properly. I mean, I don't really count playing Sims on the Wii as gaming, even though it is, because I guess I didn't consider myself a gamer or anything. Yeah. So I got into gaming only a few years before that. I kind of saw them all stupidly as frivolous and like they're games, they're fun, but they don't mean anything and they're not going to do anything. And it's better to watch a TV show or it's better to watch a movie. But that was totally wrong. And there's a reason why gaming has overtaken TV and film recently. Yeah. It's the ability to literally do that same kind of entertainment, but also have a say in it, also be immersive. So with the Stanley Parable and it kind of showing all these different concepts about liminal spaces and uncanny valley and all of these things. It wasn't super liminal, was dream cycles, wasn't it? Yeah, I get them confused sometimes.
I know, it's very similar, similar like sounding names in a weird way. Like even though like Stanley's subliminal, but like but it is kind of like that first person environment narrated. Yeah,
definitely.
It's just that Stanley Parable is just poor Stanley. Like
it was so cool, a game that really made you think about these things, and it was so cool to question the norm of things, and because a big part of it is about decision making and breaking the fourth wall, and it was funny, but it was educational, semi-educational, but it was gaming, and I was like, oh my god, this is possible. And then from playing that, I looked back at all the previous games that I had played, all the previous games that I had seen, and I thought, hey, actually I was completely wrong. They're all amazing. It's an art form. Everything takes so much time to develop and so much work goes into it. I felt a little bit guilty for not appreciating. Yeah.
I mean, it's it's like it's okay. It's like a reframing, right? Like
exactly.
It's reframing, getting rid of those biases.
Yeah.
I know as a parent as well, like I see I see it a lot with parents, specifically of girls who are still very anti-games. Like they still don't introduce my daughter has no friends who are girls who game. Like they're all boys who play Minecraft or Roblox. And, you know, it's just one of those things where, yeah, you're kind of backdating a lot of like interesting like biases that manifest in you and kind of fighting against them. But at least games won the fight at the end of the day.
Of course they would.
Like maybe the fact that you chose to become a streamer, which is like the ultimate commitment to games. So like what inspired you then to start in the first place in streaming?
I actually wanted to be a comedian.
Oh, love it.
Yeah, that was the plan. I wanted to do stand-up, but I had crippling social anxiety. So actually one of my friends said to me, why don't you just try streaming?
Yeah,
you can do it now.
We're all socially anxious comedians.
Exactly. And probably no one's going to watch anyway when you first start, which of course they don't.
Yeah.
And I hated it. I hated it. So it was the worst thing in the world. I was drained after 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Constantly doubting yourself.
Yeah.
And then someone comes in and you have one viewer and you're like,
everybody watch. Protect them.
Literally. And it was just, there were so many times when I was thinking, I don't want to do this. I hate this. Please make me stop. But this same friend convinced me, well, you haven't really given it a go. It's been 1 week, Perri. You should try it some more because I think you'd really like it. And he was totally right. And after I got used to that, after it stopped draining me, it became the only thing in my life that I've been actually able to commit to. Consistently, I take it religiously.
Yeah.
And I don't miss a stream unless I have a very good reason to. And there's been nothing else in my life that I feel that way about. And now it's been so long that I thought it maybe was a fluke or it was a whim, but it's not.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
But I think it's also amazing that you kind of like you were sort of saying before, you found your brand, you found your meaning for doing it, which a lot of it is around this sort of like psychology type streaming, which I think is like, it's such a beneficial thing to add to the space. And that's like kind of the idea of like becoming a streamer, right? Like finding where you fit in the conversation, where you fit in the narrative.
Absolutely. Because it's that question of why? What am I adding?
Yeah.
And it's not just, the idea of why would anyone watch me over someone else is really important. And it's the only way that you're going to, as you say, find your space and you're going to grow as a streamer, but even not...
It's okay. Larry doesn't mind.
Okay. His name is Larry.
I'll name him Larry now.
Amazing. Sorry, Larry. Even from not a selfish point of view, I guess it's important to do something that's important, something that you can help other people with. And so many streamers do that just by being there, especially when it's live. But even not, so many streamers and YouTubers do that where they're just a friendly face for someone. And I used to find it really, really strange. And I've spoken to a few streamer friends who are much bigger than me, so they have much more experience with this. But people will say things to you like, oh, I love you. I love your content. Thank you for this. And it used to really confuse me because it was purely selfish why I was streaming. Why would anyone be into this? And then I realized, hey, no, it's just a nice, friendly thing to do after work. If you've had a bad day, you come and talk to your friends and other people in the community, and it's just a lovely thing. And if I can share my passions with people who have the same passions, because there will be people there, no matter what you're into, there'll be people who love and share what you do. It's really cool. And it brings people together, which is awesome.
Oh my gosh, completely. I mean, that is the thing, like having somebody to just like, you know, you can kind of be in your own little echo chamber at home. Or like, you know, even just bigger like town community, because like I know I currently live in an area that is very like not game centric, and you feel like you're kind of like, I need somebody to talk to about like the things that I'm interested in or need to learn from.
Yeah.
And you being that sort of beacon for people to like sort of gravitate to say like, oh, somebody does share my opinions, or somebody offers something more to what I've been thinking about with the game, like, and especially the fact that you have sort of the research and studying behind it as well. Like, it's really, really cool.
Yeah. I mean, there's one of my favorite YouTubers and streamers ever is Penguins. And Moist Critical.
I love that name.
And I love that basically his entire brand, pretty much, although that might be doing him a disservice, is just giving his opinion on stuff. And they're usually very strong. And it's just, like you say, it's an echo chamber for people who agree. And he's cultivated this massive, massive community and people who worship him. Because it's nice to have just that identification with someone. Absolutely. Yeah. It's so important.
Moving on nicely to Superliminal.
When I first started playing it, I called it Subliminal every single time.
Yeah, I know. That is really hard to like sort of psychologically say. Superliminal.
Because is that even a word?
Probably not. I wouldn't have thought so, but you never know. But yeah, this game is really cool. Like I didn't play it myself. So how did you first come across Superliminal? Like how did you first find it?
Someone on chat said, "Hey, you should play this." So I was like, "Oh,
instant." And that's the other good thing is the fact that chat is really good for getting recommendations for games that you need to play.
Yeah, and even when we're doing just chatting psychological stuff, like I say, okay, I know about this, but they'll put all of these links to these articles and they'll have paragraphs on things. And I was like, hey, I've never thought about that. I've never heard of this. Tell me more. So it's like half and half. They'll be running the stream.
Yeah, so Superliminal, really cool though, because it's like such a challenge on like perception. So you said like basically that this game also sort of expanded what you feel about games.
Yeah, even more so than so the Stanley Parable was kind of the first time that I thought about it.
Yeah.
And then when I played Superliminal, I actually did them in succession. It was kind of, oh my God, there's this whole world that I haven't encountered. And I think the Stanley Parable does a lot of psychological concepts and really important things, but Superliminal is even more on the nose with it. So the whole talking about dream cycles and how external influence can change your dreams rapidly, because that's pretty much the main theory about what dreams are, is that they're just what you're thinking about in your day-to-day fragmented up and then smushed together in some weird narrative. So that sort of thing. And again, I guess liminal spaces, which is very, very cool and very unnerving.
Yeah.
And my area during my dissertation, during my master's, was visual perception. So for that,
oh my God, this is perfect.
It was perfect. Yeah. I was very excited when I came across it. To the point that it actually made me cry at the end of it.
Oh,
I don't remember why. It was so long ago. I don't remember why I cried, but I know that I did.
Sometimes it is just the fact that like somebody's done, like I feel like for me, it's when somebody's achieved such a perfect sort of, it's just like that kind of like Danny DeVito, like, I get it type of gift, right? It's like if somebody executes it so well, you're just kind of like, so I get really welled up with pride to the point where I cry.
Yeah, and gratitude.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who wants to play, but I think it really subverts your expectations, not just in the terms of the visual perceptions and the illusions and things, but also just you're definitely led astray in the game.
Yeah.
And then when it comes back, it's just very powerful, I think. The message behind it is very powerful.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
No, I mean, I've only watched the trailer of it and just seeing like the puzzle aspect of it.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, you know, things just aren't like you see them, they're one size, but then you look at it a different way and it's like gigantic, like a Coke can or something.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of like this is just so like, it's also those things where you just sort of think like, how did they build this?
That was my first question.
How did they build this game?
No. Who could visualize that for long enough to make it?
Yeah.
Who could keep that in their eye?
Yeah.
It's incredible. I think, it was so amazing because it really made you rethink how you see things. And that was the first thing that I learned when I started studying this. The first thing that I learned about perception, specifically visual perception, is that we have no idea what's going on. Everything is, there's no reason why those optical illusions that you see on Google or any of those things, there's no reason why that doesn't apply to stuff around you. Don't trust your peripherals. It's a lie.
Yeah.
Everything is a lie. We're just filling things in. There was a study, I love telling people about this. It's so exciting. There was a study done on chocolate bars.
Okay.
And so, thank you.
Yes, so, tell me.
Companies, as we know, have been reducing the size of chocolate bars, allegedly.
Yeah.
But there was a study done to show how much they could reduce it before we actually visually see it. There's a number, there's an increment. I can't remember what percent, but there is a percent that if it's under that percent, we will not see a visual difference. by bit. And that's why it feels like all of a sudden everything's smaller. But actually they've been going for a while.
Yeah. And we just only are just like, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
What are you saying? The size of the Freddo has decreased. Like,
yeah.
That's just, that's really fascinating. It's cheeky.
It's cheeky. And it's an example of everything.
Yeah.
Everything is like that.
But then, freaking hell, the massive like opus of your streaming career, going into Elden Ring.
Yes.
Like, I mean, honestly, like you played Elden Ring and like beat it with your brain. Like,
still crazy to me that it worked.
That's incredible. Like, when did you sort of start thinking of trialing this out?
It started with finding out that you could get portable Bluetooth EEGs. I had no idea that was a thing, like at all. Because I had worked with EEG obviously in my degree, and I knew about it and all the medical kind of boring stuff. But when I came across Emotive, the company that make these, and there's several others as well that make these headsets that you can just get, and they're still expensive, but they're more affordable than the 40,000 medical grade massive machine ones.
Yeah, definitely.
I kind of thought, well, this is amazing.
Yeah,
I have to try this out. And the reason I got it actually was because they had this live brain visualization thing. So I started playing Visage and other horror games, having my brain, and I thought, okay, this could be the new heart rate monitor or something. And it was amazing. Yeah. Every time there was a jump scare, my brain would light up with this really high frequency brain activity.
Oh, that's so cool.
So cool. And then I kind of clocked, hey, you can record patterns of brain activity. And then if you have something that recognizes something, you can code that to anything. Yeah. And I think someone, I forget his name, there was a YouTuber who moved a car with his mind. And then I noticed that Emotive actually said, this is possible. You can turn light switches on and off with it. They didn't give me much indication of how. They're helping me more now.
Yeah.
But I kind of thought, okay, well, let's do this. And it took me hours and hours and hours just to get the one input working.
Yeah.
Because it was me. I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing. And trying to make your brain do something specific and the same every time. And so different from your regular pattern that it knows the difference. It took hours. But then eventually it worked, and I got in Minecraft and he hit the block when I asked him to.
Oh my god.
It was the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
It was so exciting.
Yeah.
And then I thought, hey, what's the worst thing I could possibly do with this, because I hate myself. And Elden Ring. And it just kind of has been building up from there. We started with just the one input that finally was working enough and wasn't just the occasional block hit. And then I thought, okay, let's add another one. And then that was horrific and it didn't work for so long.
Oh my gosh.
And then it did. And now we're adding a third, and now we're adding gyro controls, and now I've coded this controller in Python that puts it all together.
Oh, that's so sick.
It's so cool.
It's really like just so fascinating, so eye-opening, so like as well, probably in the long scheme of things, like so beneficial. But like, that must have been such a unique experience, like having, because obviously there's not been a lot of people who've done this in such a way with Elden Ring specifically.
Yeah.
From software who developed Elden Ring probably never intended for someone to just play it with their brain. So it's like, you're kind of writing this interesting like aspect of the game that was never meant to exist, but making it exist in a way that can extend, like, it's just, that's a lot.
There have been I think that's actually probably the main reason I chose Elden Ring, because they have this, intended or not, they have this amazingly powerful and really creative community. There have been so many people that play it in so many different ways, like Miss Mika with her dance pad, and now she's done it with a guitar and with a single finger and all of these things, which are wild. So someone's done it with a recorder, a saxophone, a harp, and someone did it with bananas. Did you hear about that?
Amazing.
He attached, I imagine, just wires to bananas, and then when they got a signal, they... that's harder than what I'm doing, I imagine.
Yeah, brilliant.
It's amazing. So I saw that and was like, okay, let's get on this.
Yeah.
Let's do it. But it's such a strange experience, and it started when it started, it was really uncomfortable and really odd, and it only worked half the time. But now that it's working pretty consistently, it feels really powerful.
Yeah.
It feels really amazing.
It's like it's like the closest thing to having telekinesis.
That's what it feels like.
It's so sick.
It's wild. And I've been getting messages from people talking about obviously further applications of these things.
Yeah.
Like accessibility reasons, and people are controlling wheelchairs, and they're starting doing the research with prosthetics, I believe. And the fact that if any tiny way I can bring more attention to this and make it so that gaming is more accessible to people, because as we know now, I mean, it's overtaken as the most popular form of entertainment. So there are so many people out there that just can't get involved. And we know, I mean, everyone knows what it feels like to be isolated from a certain experience, and especially as a kid, because kids play the most games. That if there's a way that we can just make it possible for people. I think when people think about accessibility issues, they're always thinking just the bare necessities, and that's not what life is. That's not enough. That's not important.
I can definitely see, like, you know, special effects does like all that work with, you know, helping people who are in isolated type environments where they need something to like experience to just make living comfortable. Like, you know, this is obviously something else that can do that for people. But then also I imagine, like, do you think like it would be able, like, me not being like completely well versed in psychology, but do you think that it would come to a point where you could be able to see like where maybe mentally your brain isn't working? Like, could it manifest like sort of areas of your brain that maybe aren't connecting in the way that it should as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
EEG usually is meant to and intended for diagnosing problems, like you say, like that. So mainly epilepsy and things. So if it can do that in the medical sense, and then also you've got, I guess, this kind of personal use gaming sense, I don't see why not. If things are, I learned a new term recently because I was talking to a neuroscientist the other day, and he mentioned, I'm trying to remember what the term was. It was amazing. It was brain incompatibility or something like that. Maybe not that, but something like that, where no matter what you do, for some reason, whatever reason, the EEG and the key binding with the EEG just doesn't work for some people. It just doesn't work. And he doesn't know why, and people don't know why. It's really rare, and it probably is just the technology, to be honest. But I mean, stuff like that can be a real indication. And if we can get it working enough that you don't need a million different electrodes with wires and a massive machine that's on wheels that has to be wielded by 10 people, if we can get it good enough and accurate enough that my headset can be so inclusive and so encompassing of all your brain activity, because right now it's fit to purpose, so it can do the key binding, it can pick up enough, but in terms of where brain activity is coming from, it's not ever going to be amazing because it's only 14 and it's on the surface and it doesn't exactly. But it's getting better. I mean, this sort of technology wasn't possible like 10 years ago. It wasn't at all even on the cards. Like,
right? Like, and that goes with like a lot of things. Like, we seem to have a really good habit in the human race of taking something that's really, really ridiculously huge to start with, but then making it really itty bitty small.
Yeah, exactly. Like VR. Yeah. VR's come so far. Yeah. It's amazing.
Remember like the classic VR sets, like you could only do that and like it's just like, it's just ridiculous. And it's just like now you can just have it on the fireplace. It's like, it's fine.
Yeah, it costs less than an Xbox.
Yeah. Yeah.
Parents use it.
Absolutely incredible.
It is amazing. And that's what I say when people come in and ask me, hey, do you think these things will be possible? Do you think these things will be possible? I say, well, I don't know if they are now, but probably.
Yeah. Like,
give it 5 years.
Never say never.
No, I've learned that on a really micro level as well, when people say, hey, you're never going to defeat this boss. And then I do. Yeah. Every single time, every single boss, someone says, you're never going to do this. Oh. And I'm just like, well, that's what you said last time.
I know.
And the time before. And then we did.
Honestly, I'm so impressed. And like, if you could talk a little bit as well about the training process, because I know that you've said before that it's something with like a disc and you had to keep trying to like get the disc to work by thinking about certain things. So like how did you sort of figure it out? Like how did you how talk through like the visualization process and training process?
So much of it is just trial and error.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out what is so different from your normal pattern and then different from the other ones. So first of all, I tried to, because I knew that, and emotive tells you that the best kind of things you can do that alters your brain activity the most is visualizing something that moves. So I had that kind of base knowledge. And so when I was thinking about, okay, if I'm trying to attack in this game, then let's imagine a sword swinging. Let's imagine casting a spell. But of course, that's already different. That's already two different things.
Yeah.
So I broke it down into the fundamental core part, which for both of those things, if you're swinging, if you're pushing, then you're pushing something. For all of it, you're pushing something. And that's something you can do over and over. So that's the one that we started with. And it is literally just that. So what happened is the BCI, the brain computer interface, it can just record your pattern of brain activity, and they give you like 10-second trials. So for 10 seconds, you imagine this visualization, it records what your brain is doing, and then you do it hundreds of times, over and over and over and over again. And you can't listen to music or watch a show while you do it because that will mess up the brain activity. So it's just, and then eventually, for so long, for the sometimes first 100, first 150 trials, it doesn't recognize it at all. It's not encouraging. It tells you you're not doing the same thing. We don't know what you're doing. This makes no sense.
Yeah.
And then eventually it clicks. And then all of a sudden it's getting it every single time, and it's different from your normal, and it's amazing. And then you start adding more inputs.
Yeah.
And you add the second one.
Because we have to just push it further.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, once you do it, it's boring. Next thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you add the second one, it's not just that you have to train up the second one. The first one doesn't know what it is anymore.
Oh no.
So you have to do them both again.
Oh.
I'm having the problem now where I'm adding the third input. It's almost there. It started recognizing them, but I've had to get rid of the first one and start it really from the beginning. So we're training everything up at the same time.
Yeah.
Which means that when I add the fourth one,
it's going to be it again.
It will. But
at least you'll be so knowledgeable about the first three by the time you do have the fourth one in, that it is that whole like,
it stops being hard and just becomes something you do.
Yeah.
It is fun though. It's very very satisfying when it does work.
Oh my god, I can't even imagine like how good that probably feels when it happens.
Amazing. It's incredible. But yeah, in terms of what the other visualizations are, like you say, the second one was the plate spinning.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because, again, I was kind of breaking things down into their core components. So that one I wanted to heal in the game.
Sure.
So drink a potion. And so I started training that one. And this is why it took so long. It's not just the training. It's because if it doesn't work, if it's a bad visualization, you kind of have to scrap it off and pick another one and start again.
Oh my gosh.
So it's really, really trial and error. And there are so many iterations of it. So the first time I tried to imagine drinking something, it worked. But then I realized that I wasn't looking at the screen.
Oh, no.
Silly. So then I imagined pulling something towards me, but that was too similar to the push. So scrap it off, new one. And then I just kind of thought, okay, what is kind of coming towards me? But the most different thing I can think of to staring at a fixed point and pushing slowly something forward. A plate going rapidly, you spin me right round, baby.
Yeah.
And that's where it came from. That was the second one.
Oh,
that works flawlessly now, but it didn't for a long time.
Yeah.
And now the third one, I don't know if this is going to be the final one because we're only in the first iteration.
Sure.
Is imagining something sinking in water to that habanero tune, just so I can get the pace right. So I can do the same every time.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
It's just about started working.
Yeah.
So hopefully there won't be another one, but there might be.
But it also tells you like how much, like, you know, it always is being said about like how powerful music is. But like, honestly, how powerful music is for like, memory, that muscle memory type of thing.
Definitely, because a pace of something spinning and a pace of, especially something sinking, because with the beat you can kind of do spin, 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 spin. But with something sinking, it's so subjective. Like how much is it falling by what time increment? But somehow the song just makes it happen and makes me remember it perfectly, that it's before the song it was different every single time.
Yeah.
And then I added the song and all of a sudden it's getting it, and it's just completely, it's wild. It's
like, you know, songwriters, the fact that like you've written a song that one day would be used to be Elden Ring. Like,
oh God, I wonder if I'm gonna get DMCA charged.
No, because it's in your brain.
It's true. I'm imagining it.
You can't put a DMCA on my brain.
No,
I'm sorry.
Oh
my God.
Yeah, I don't.
It's incredible.
It is. I actually studied music psychology for a bit because I have a music degree. That's where I started. And then I specialized in music psychology and then realized, what am I doing with the music part? Let's do the psychology part. So that sort of thing is always in my brain. I'm always humming something in my head, which I imagine most people are.
You've said about the games that you're sort of thinking about trialing for the future. I know you said like Sekiro might have been like one that's a bit too intense, but like what sort of games are you sort of thinking about? What games are on the horizon for you to try this out with?
I'll probably come back to Minecraft because we started with it, but we didn't take it anywhere. It was just kind of hit a block and then we moved on. So people are quite excited about what we're calling Mindcraft.
Yeah.
Just for that name, I want to do it. That's the only reason.
100%.
And then we were thinking things like FPS games.
Oh,
but
cool.
for that, I'd have to include the mouse. So currently I have one joystick, which is gyro controls. And we've got some options. Maybe I can make a toggle to switch joysticks and then use that as the mouse, or we could involve eye tracking. So there's that we're working on currently. But yeah, stuff like that. We might just go through the Dark Souls games.
Considering all these options, what do you think like your game choices sort of say about you as a person?
Ooh. Well, I guess things like challenge and difficulty, if you can survive repetition. So I'm thinking Dark Souls here pretty much exclusively, but if you can survive doing a boss over and over and over and over and over again, that definitely shows some virtues potentially. Of course, those things are learned. I used to get so angry. It was the only time I would slam my hands on the table, but now it's fine because you will do it eventually. You will do it eventually, so it's fine. Just keep going, have fun with it. It's interesting. I don't know. In general, I guess it kind of reveals all your personality traits pretty much. So if you like time management games, you're probably quite, for all intents and purposes, type A, and you're quite, on top of things. And if you like creative games, you're probably a little bit more laid back and you don't really care about, doing things on time. And maybe I'm generalizing massively here. This is not based in science.
But no, it's fascinating though.
It would be really interesting to figure that out. To take surveys.
Closing us out, what are you sort of working on now? Where can we find you?
Well, I'm live on Twitch 4 times a week, so Twitch. But right now we're starting to post a bit more content on YouTube and things like that, mostly about the Elden Ring runs. But I'm also posting psychological topics. So that's usually what we do, is the normal content. So we'll go through something that happened in the news and explain why they did it from all these studies and all these points of view. The next thing in terms of projects is, there's actually loads of things that are happening that are really exciting. There's, of course, we're developing the controller even more and more and more to make it as robust as possible and to include all these different inputs. But we're starting an experiment in isolation as well. So I'm going to be in a room for a week or something with no stimulus, and it probably won't be a week because I need to do the research on what causes brain damage.
Oh God.
Maybe that point, probably.
Yeah.
And then testing my cognitive abilities throughout that. And I won't give anything away because we've got so many more. I made the mistake of sharing one on stream, and then my partner was like, "You shouldn't have done that."
Oh, bless. That's fine. Yeah, no, but yeah, we just have to make sure that you don't become Jekyll and Hyde. We don't want to Jekyll and Hyde.
It would be good content.
I'll get paid for it though.
I might get sponsored.
I'll get sponsored to be Jekyll and Hyde. Yep, that's perfect. But no, that's incredible, and I'm so excited to see.
Thank you.
It's really amazing.
Thank you so much.